Hello, this is Paul Chek. Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is. I am available to you 24 hours a day to help you get deeper into your life, into your love, into your feelings, sensations, thoughts, and higher consciousness. Hey, it's a process, and I'm in it with you every day. So today I thought I would talk about something very basic, but very important, and that is rhythm, order, thought, and emotions. One of the great geniuses of the world, who unfortunately is no longer with us but left a lot of great material for us, was quantum physicist David Bohm, who was very, very unique in that not only did he make some very significant advances in our understanding of quantum physics, but he was a unique physicist in that he did not believe you could differentiate philosophy from science or quantum physics. He didn't believe you could differentiate metaphysics from physics, and that meditation was an essential component of our growth and development, both spiritually and professionally and personally. And in a great interview that I was listening to not too long ago between Michael Toms and David Bohm, I'm trying to remember Michael Toms' radio show, I think it's New Horizons or something like that. You can find, if you just search David Bohm on Audible, at audible.com, you'll find a series of interviews with Michael Toms, which I highly recommend. Now, they are very deep, but if you're into that, it would be fantastic. But in that interview, David Bohm, in one of those interviews, David Bohm said something that I thought was very worth sharing and very relevant, because I believe from my own life experience I can substantiate his comments as real. Now, David Bohm said, order in your life is necessary to get into deeper thought. And that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to, and especially a lot of younger people who haven't really created the life they want yet, but are having a hard time getting themselves moving or organizing themselves or committing themselves to the path and taking on the responsibilities of an adult, which means accepting responsibility for what you're creating and going for it. When you're in that state, if you don't have the basics well managed, you can find yourself stuck in self-defeating habits that are the source of a lot of negative emotion, critical self-judgment, woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't, maybe, I wish, I'm going to, ... type discussions, which if they're heard too often by people around you, leads one into a situation where they have a hard time finding people that have enough confidence in them to want to support them, whether it be financially or with educational support or mentoring, etc. So today what I'd like to do is talk about how rhythm is important to really getting into either deeper thought and making advances in some area of your life or in your profession, or getting deeper into understanding your own emotional life and why you may find yourself so reactive or anxious or depressive or frustrated, or any number of such descriptors that often lead to people having emotional imbalances that unfortunately today are almost a guarantee you're going to be put on some kind of a drug, which only numbs the symptoms and then leads you into a situation where you're not inspired to look into what it is inside of you that's triggering these emotions. So today I'm going to take you on a brief tour of how I handle these things in my own life and cultivate deeper thought and work with my feelings and my body, my sensations, and those are all necessary components of intuition, and deeper thought really usually only partially comes from the process of thinking itself. My life experiences has taught me that intuition is really where deeper thought emerges as a product that is greater than thought alone can produce, simply because when we're thinking about how to solve a given problem or create a product or understand love, life, relationships, God, religion, and any of these things that have deep concepts that are often seemingly in conflict with each other, we reach a certain point in our own thinking, but there's often multiple potential variables or antagonists where we're reaching an impasse. In other words, if you take any thought to its end conclusion to the best of your own ability, and then, for example, research what that thought is. So I'll just use a simple one. If you think, how can I improve my vitality and make it easier to get off of coffee, you might hear somebody like me say, well, taking cold showers is a really good way to stimulate your adrenals naturally, enhance your sympathetic nervous system, aid in your recovery. And you might start thinking about that. And you may then start looking into research on the subject. And so what you'll find is, in almost any instance, believe me, I've done a lot of this, no matter what concept you come up with, you can find people with equal levels of academic credibility on either side of the fence. And this has to do with anything from the use of drugs, to how to raise children, to the use of exercise, to diet, to lifestyle factors, to are pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, GMOs safe, ... So my point is, thought only takes you to a certain level, because you can't really determine yourself how valid your thought is until you begin to compare it with other people that have done deep thinking. And again, you find that you're always going to reach some kind of an impasse where you've got to make a decision which way you're going to go, and then you find out that thinking is only one element of the creative process, that you have to engage in the experience of testing things yourself, which many people are too lazy to do. They want to just be told what to do, but then complain like hell when it doesn't work out, and often even blame the person whose advice they followed, which really doesn't do anything for anybody. But once you get to that tipping point where you've thought something through deeply enough, then you got to go into the cultivation stage of intuition. And intuition requires one have a willingness to get any answer, regardless whether it is for or against their proposed concept or thought, but you also have to be able to calm the mind enough that the universe can support you with information, and that information has to come through the mental process. So if your mind, as I often say to my patients, the mind's like a garbage disposal. It chops things up into smaller pieces so they can be moved through a small pipe. And you know, the universe is a big place. Life is very rich. So we have to allow the mind to focus on one thing at a time, because if you get too many concepts or thoughts going at once, then you can't really be present with either of them. So in order to go deeper, we have to be able to calm the mind, which is like shutting the garbage disposal off. You can reach down through the garbage disposal safely when it's shut off, because the blades aren't spinning, and the mind or the ego chops everything up into pieces. For example, if you're doing a mathematical formula, you have to look at key components of the formula in order to make it all make sense, and you have to put the data in. A squared plus b squared equals c squared requires that you know what a squared is, and then you have to look at the formula in its pieces in order to put it together to have any meaning. But the intuitional aspect requires that you go beyond that and say, okay, I've done my formula, my thinking, now I need to ask for help from that which is beyond my own mind, which we'll call the universe or the soul or higher consciousness. And that requires that you have the ability to avoid incessant thinking about that which scares you, that which threatens you, that which you don't want, and even that which you do want. And be brave enough to just be present with silence, but maintain an open state. Imagine your head like a top of a funnel and the big part's up here, and you're accessing the wisdom of the universe and all those who have ever thought about these things, and it funnels down inside of you when you're in a receptive state. Otherwise, intuition is kind of like somebody showing up to bring you a message, but when they get there, there's 1,000 other thoughts in line, like people in line to go to a movie, and the theater is so full that the messenger can't make it in. So with that in mind, let's take a look at a couple of very important, simple concepts that I use very, very effectively in my own life to create the materials and coach the people that I do and grow myself. So first of all, we want to go down, I've spoken about this on a blog in the past, I'll give you a quick review here. This is going to relate to any dream, goal, or objective you have. If it's spiraling up, we call that generative. In other words, you're growing, you're learning, you're experiencing, you're engaging, you're participating in effective thinking, effective feeling, effective sensing, and effective intuiting, growing more conscious and more capable. So that's the generative spiral. We often have habits that get in the way of us growing ourselves through our physical body, our emotional capacities, our mental capacities, or our spiritual development. So if we have more and more freedom as we become more and more knowledgeable, more experienced, or wiser people, and we learn how to use, say, the rules of society or the laws of the universe, such as gravity, in our favor, then paradoxically the same rules and laws that are very binding to someone down here in a non-generative cycle actually just simply become tools for freedom, just like a mechanic needs to bind a bolt with the right wrench in order to move it, but the mechanic doesn't walk around being frustrated because his wrench is binding the bolt. Only somebody who's not very good at being a mechanic has thoughts like that. Now, the word karma really relates to the creation of freedom. So positive karma means you're becoming less bound by your thoughts, feelings, and ideas or beliefs, and becoming more congruent with your dream and more congruent with reality itself. Negative karma means you're becoming more and more entangled in yourself or more entangled in relationships with persons, places, or things, and that can be challenging relationships with mom, dad, family, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, teacher, and the list goes on. But most of this is the challenge, the biggest challenge is with yourself in most of these cases. And so as we fall down into a negative or a non-generative spiral, we become more and more caged. Now, it's important to remember that there's a concept in biology and in psychology called a negative bias. The negative bias is a concept that describes that the mind tends to think more about negative or fear-based thoughts, because whenever we perceive that we're not safe, we're naturally inclined to think, you know, if that snake might bite me, then what have I got to do to avoid being bit? If the dog might bite me, what do I have to do to avoid being bit? So taking that concept, the negative bias actually works at the physical level, such as the health of your body, the emotional level, which is usually the energy produced by your thoughts and beliefs. All thoughts produce emotions. Emotion means energy in motion, so you feel it moving through your body. When you feel love moving through your body, then you're open positive, receptive, and willing to connect. But when fear is moving through your body, the tendency is to close down, narrow your focus, and go into defense mode. In the right situations, well, naturally, that's a survival tactic. But most of what happens today is through poor for-doctor self-management. People don't realize that the reason their mind is racing and their hearts are blocked up and their emotions are blocked up and they're resentful and regretting and gossiping and criticizing and woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't is because they're not managing themselves. And when you're not managing yourself in the way I'm about to allude to here, then your body becomes stressed. And if your body's stressed, it sends messages to your brain 24 hours a day. My biochemistry is out of balance. I don't have enough food on board. You're overeating. You're under-exercising. We're clogged up. You're not pooping well, ... And the brain stem sits at the base of the brain in the limbic system, and all your higher brain processes are totally and utterly dependent on everything happening in the midbrain and the lower brain. And the lower brain's function, the reptilian brain, is monitoring your body for pure survival, and it's what regulates all your autonomic functions, such as breathing, digestion, elimination, circulation, and hormones, and the list goes on, metabolism. So when those things are threatened, then the negative bias actually is being generated from the inside of your body, usually due to poor management, but it projects itself upward. And if a person's detached from their body, detached from their behaviors that are triggering the thoughts and emotions, and detached from the beliefs or unconscious of these things, which is shadow behavior, then they often mistakenly interpret the survival messages from the negative bias as threats from other people, or he said, she said, or my mom this, or my boss that, or my dad that, and the list just goes on. So then what happens is people keep reaching to try to defend or to avoid or to medicate, which is really experiences coming through a distorted lens of the self due to simple lack of self-management, which goes right back to order in your life is necessary to get into deeper thought, and deeper thought is necessary in many regards to get to the bottom of your emotional life, because as I said, emotions in general are reflecting back your thoughts, which are mirrors of your beliefs. And if we don't grow ourselves and look our habits square in the eye, then our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs stay stagnant while the environment around us perpetually changes, technology changes, people changes. So maybe we have resent for somebody in our family, but we don't realize in the last 10 years that we haven't seen them, they've grown a lot. But when we see them, we have them in this rigid framework, and we think that's the same asshole he or she always was, without realizing they're a completely different person. But you've got such a negative bias, you're not even willing to see what's right in front of you. So these are the kinds of things we have to look at. There's all sorts of stuff out there about emotional healing, and a lot of it's very good, but it's superficial. You can feel your emotions and describe your emotions and breathe into your emotions, but if you're not willing to look at what's behind them and address the specific behaviors that are often directly related to why they're being generated, then you can just go to workshops and seminars and watch YouTube clips for the rest of your life, and you'll be the smartest person that doesn't heal on the planet, which I see lots of, unfortunately. So now that we know one of the greatest thinkers in the world told us we need order in our lives in order to get into deeper thought, which I'm saying gets you into deeper connection with emotions and opens the door of intuition. And we know that if we aren't addressing our habits and deciphering whether or not our habit is good or dream affirmative or negative or dream negating, dream affirmative means it's generating higher potential. Dream negative means it's trapping us and we're becoming more caged and our perception is getting narrower and narrower, not seeing reality as it is. So as we go down, we lose freedom, we lose consciousness, and we have to question our values and what our dream is. As we go up using creativity, we have more access to our feelings and we can trust them more. we have higher capacity for thinking, and we increase our consciousness, which opens the door to greater freedom, and then we can use the rules and the laws of the universe and society to support us instead of forever bitching that I gotta pay taxes, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and trying to figure out ways to get out of everything that we all do together because we're part of a community or a culture. Okay, so in very simplistic terms here, you have the four doctors. Dr. Happiness relates to what is my dream, goal, or objective in my life right now. Dr. Happiness relates to spring. Spring is when energy begins to rise, and in the day cycle, it's the morning. So you get up in the morning and you say to yourself, today, this is what I'm going to do. These are my goals and objectives for the day. I'm going to have this meeting. And you need to be clear, when am I going to eat my breakfast? When's the best time for me to do meditation or Tai Chi? Is it in the morning? Dr. Happiness is the thesis. It is your thesis for the day. If you write a master's thesis, it means you're making a proposal of a way of viewing, interpreting, or understanding a specific subject, and most of those projects are to help increase educational awareness amongst society. That's what universities are supposed to do. So your thesis for the day is your commitment to yourself that this is who I am, this is how I'm going to live today. And when you have a thesis or a direction, remember that requires values. And as I've often said, your yes has no value until you learn to say no. So until you're sure what you're going to do today and who you're becoming and how you're living so you can get deeper into thought and into emotion and use your intuition effectively, then you're going to be like a rubber ball bouncing all over the place, and your emotions will mirror your habits and your lifestyle, and your beliefs will be, shall we say, flimsy. Because if your beliefs aren't producing growth, development, and a contribution to yourself, society, and the world, well, then they're really not very productive for anybody, including yourself. So Dr. Happy is, what is my dream and how am I going to live it today, and what can I do specifically today, or what do I choose to do specifically today? That's the words of an adult, not I have to, what do I choose to do? You start your day with your thesis. Dr. Movement represents movement of thoughts, feelings, emotions, body, and getting something done, taking action. So here we go from the planning stage to the action stage. It's represented as summer in the annual cycle. It's represented as midday in the daily cycle. And this is where we run into the antithesis. So here's where people try to get us to go party or do things or take on more work than we really want to do, because if we take on the work, maybe for a little extra money, but now we can't sleep well, or we're rushed and we can't eat well, or we don't have time to go to the gym, what do you got? You got a little extra money, you ran out of time, you can't follow your own values, you start feeling emotionally stressed, frustrated. You usually spend the money trying to medicate yourself if you do that too long, because your body's all screwed up, your mind doesn't work well, and you start seeing the world through dark glasses. So the point is the little extra money really worth what you could gain by being steady and being more efficient with the way you live in order to achieve greatness instead of being average? Carl Jung says the average man will never be successful. That doesn't require too much wisdom to figure out, but it's true. We all have to decide, are we going to be average in a society full of sick people? It's average to be overweight, it's average to be unhealthy, it's average to be on pills, it's average to spend more money than you make, it's average to complain all the time, it's average to be trapped in your emotions, it's average to blame mommy and daddy for everything that's wrong in your life, ... So we run into the antithesis, and the antithesis could be the challenges that are necessary in the development of any dream. No worthy dream is a walk in the park, or there'd be no sense of joy and accomplishment when you complete it. I could list you 1,000 million challenges I run into trying to live my dreams, but fortunately I'm hip to all this and engage in it. So the antithesis is the guarantee, it's the necessary process. And anytime we're learning and growing, there's almost always a guardian of knowledge. If you study The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, it might be your father, it might be your teacher, it might be your mentor, it might be your opponent or your antagonist. Then Dr. Diet relates to feeding ourselves and hydrating ourselves in accordance with our unique individual needs. It represents the fall annual season. It represents the evening hours of the 24-hour cycle. And it is the period where we bring ourselves into synthesis. You had your idea, you met your challenges, and now you sit down at the end of the day and say, let me gather all this data down and write it down. What did I experience today? Who did I run into? What kind of challenges did I face? What did I find out about my formula? Is it working, or is there something that needs to be adjusted? The synthesis is usually something that goes well with meditation, Tai Chi, breathing. For me, sitting in a sauna at night, the heat helps open me up and relax me. I keep a notebook handy so that as I'm meditating, if an intuitive insight comes as an answer to a question or a challenge, I can jot it down so I don't lose it. So the synthesis, each of us has to figure out what is the best way for us to synthesize and what's the best time, what's the best place. But typically the evening, I find, is the best time for synthesis because you've been exposed to the spring and the summer of the day, and now you can bring it to a close and ask yourself, if this is one day, what do I need to synthesize to rise up one level in my growth and development tomorrow? I tell people all the time, look, if you just improve 1% a day with either your happiness, your ability to rest and use your intuition effectively, your ability to move your body effectively, or your ability to eat effectively, within 100 days you're a completely new person. And it's amazing to me how many people won't even contribute 1% a day honestly to themselves. And that means those are average people, right? They'll always be there, that's okay, but the question is that what you aspire to? Is that what you came to planet Earth, to be average? Well, that doesn't require much of anything, right? And it's not, there's no excitement in it. So then we go into Dr. Quiet, which represents sleep, restoration, and the effective use of movement and breathing to cultivate life force energy and open your mind and have the resources to deal with relationships and be honest about engaging in your own emotional life and engaging in your dream effectively. You know, if your body was a computer, you'd have to recharge it or it just would stop working. And there's enough correlations between our bodies and computers that if you don't rest effectively, then you begin to collapse, just like a phone does when it starts running low on battery, or a computer if it's running on a battery. So we want to respect that we need winter, we need sleep, we need restoration, and right here is where we wake up the next day and we either go up a spiral or stagnate, which is the equivalent of going down. Things that are stagnant rot, and that means to disintegrate, not integrate. So when we go about planning our day and making this happen for ourselves, what is your dream? If you don't know what your dream is, you can do PPS Success Mastery Lesson 1, How to Find and Live Your Legacy, which you can get at chekinstitute.com or ppssuccess.com. And it not only gives you the very beautiful process for identifying where your blockages are, where your limiting thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, what things happen in your developmental upbringing that may be still anchor points for you to not move on, but it shows you the 10 components of a dream so you can identify what puzzle pieces you do have, and then once you know what you do have, you know where to focus your awareness on so you can keep moving forward. But even if you don't know what your overarching dream is, it is wise to have a goal or objective for each day to grow yourself at whatever level you're at, because it takes practice of bringing things to conclusion and moving through the cycle of thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and restoration. Because if you don't practice with little things, then you could end up being a big dreamer that has big ideas but doesn't know how to take any process or concept from the beginning or inception to conclusion or fruition and productivity. So it's very important to start with the small manageable things and work your way up to the big things, or you can end up being an ineffective dreamer. You can tell everybody what you're going to be and how rich you're going to be, but 10 years later you're still sucking the hind tit, so to speak. So what is your dream, and what is your habit of thoughts or emotions, and where are you willing to be more creative? Where are you out of balance with the male and the female force of yin and yang, receptivity drawing in feminine, expression yang? If you're over or under expressing, physically, emotionally, or mentally, are you acting out of habit, or is it because you're engaged in a creative process? And if you are overthinking or feeling or engaging, know there's a limit to how long you can do that before things start breaking down. So having good rhythms in your day and in your life gives you the foundation to engage when we do need to stay up late at night or burn the midnight oil to finish a project. Then you do it without burning out and ending up on drugs, and you learn how to manage yourself effectively. What choices am I willing to make in order to accomplish my objective for the day, and in order to maintain my rhythm so I can grow myself? And are my choices of habit, positive or negative, or creativity? And then my 4 doctors: happiness, quiet, diet, and movement, which we've just discussed. So once you have that in balance and you live intelligently within the means that you have, and to the degree that you think you don't have enough money to eat well or live well, then that is a fantastic first dream, goal, or objective. And everyone has to go through life. The playing field's fairly level. Some people say, oh, they got rich parents or whatever. Yeah, but with money comes lots of challenges. With power comes lots of challenges. So having money and not having money really are just 2 sides of the same coin. Everyone's got to deal with some level of resistance, and the playing field's quite level in my experience working with people from poor people all the way to super rich people. We all have challenges, and anybody can gain more money and more freedom, and people with lots of money can easily lose their money and their freedom. So that coin's forever flipping. You just got to decide how you're going to manage yourself. So some resources to help you: my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Series of questionnaires right in the beginning to identify how much stress you're under, helps you know how much exercise stress, what types of exercise, exercises to aid emotional healing and mental emotional clarity, diet advice, lifestyle advice, sleep advice, lots of images, mind maps. I wrote the book so that you could engage with it. It's not just left brain, it's got lots of images and mind maps and things to help you. Then my last 4 doctors you'll ever need, How to Get Healthy Now, gives you more detail on this 4 doctor concepts and how to go ahead and apply it in your life. I teach you how to breathe properly in there. I teach you how to do work-in exercise. I even teach you how to use sound healing to supplement your work-in practice. Very easy to get through. Little multimedia ebook, could change your life forever. Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 online integrates How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy in the 4 doctors, shows you how to master that and teaches you even more. And we now have that course online, or if you'd like to take it live, we have them all over the world. You can come do that. It's a 3-day course, and it is a course that's changed the lives of many, many, many people, including people with serious illnesses and diseases they thought they were forever going to be stuck with, or drug prescriptions, completely gone, normal, healthy, within usually as little as 3 months to a year, depending on the state they're in. So you can go to chekinstitute.com. PPS Lesson 1 I spoke about, that's also there. Chek 4-Quadrant Mastery Coaching, or Coaching Mastery actually, workshop September 15th through the 18th, coming right up here, San Diego, California. This is the logo for the course. This is the most comprehensive course that I've created yet. So even though there's no prerequisite materials required, it is designed for those that truly want to get to the bottom of their issues, heal, so they can live fully and be an authentic guide for others and co-create together so that we can all make the world a more beautiful, more exciting place for the children, for each other, and for the planet and the animals and the creatures that all deserve better from us. So if you're ready for a real deep get down, look in your shadow, open it up, unpackage it, celebrate the beauty that you have, become aware of the areas you need to change, and learn techniques for doing that, this could be a workshop for you. If you're looking for someone to medicate you, make life easy, make your problems go away, or do magic on you, this will be a very scary workshop for you. So all that's available at chekinstitute.com, CHEKinstitute.com. I hope you enjoyed my blog today. And remember, when someone like David Bohm says order in your life is necessary to get into deeper thought, we should listen. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.